Marcus Chen was having a bad week. His salvage business was slow, his ship needed repairs, and his bank account was almost empty. He walked through the streets of Nexus 7 Station with his hands in his pockets and worry on his mind. The station was busy today. Aliens from dozens of worlds walked past him. Some had 4 arms, some had scales, and some floated in the air. Marcus had lived here for 3 years, but he still found the galaxy fascinating. He turned a corner and saw something unusual. A small auction house stood between 2 closed shops. The building looked old and dusty. A holographic sign blinked above the door. Estate sale. Today only. Marcus checked his credit chip. He had 523 credits left. Not much, but maybe he could find something useful to resell. He pushed open the door. The auction room was almost empty. Only 2 other people sat in the rows of chairs. An old Vrixian merchant slept in the back row, snoring softly. A young Keldon student scrolled through her datapad, barely paying attention. At the front, a tired-looking auctioneer stood behind a podium. He was a Morthian, with gray skin and too many eyes. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Lot 46, the auctioneer said in a bored voice. "A set of damaged stellar navigation charts. Starting bid, 200 credits. Nobody raised their hand. "Sold to no one," the auctioneer muttered. "Lot 47, 1 decommissioned vessel. Origin unknown. Registry lost. The ship is called Whisper of Distances. It's been sitting in our impound bay for 15 years. Starting bid, 100 credits. Marcus leaned forward. A whole ship for 100 credits? Something had to be wrong with it. "Any bids?" the auctioneer asked without hope. Marcus looked around. The Vrixian merchant was still sleeping. The Keldon student wasn't even listening. 500 credits, Marcus said, raising his hand. The auctioneer blinked all 6 of his eyes in surprise. Did someone actually bid?" "Yes, 500 credits, Marcus repeated. "Any other bids?" The auctioneer waited exactly 3 seconds. "Sold to the human in the front row." 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in the station's cold impound bay. In front of him was his new ship. It was strange. The Whisper of Distances was not big, but not small either. Its hull was dark gray, covered in patterns that looked like writing but weren't any language Marcus knew. The metal seemed old, but it wasn't rusted or broken. It just looked forgotten. "Here's the access code," the impound manager said, handing Marcus a data chip. "Good luck, you'll need it." "Why does everyone keep saying that?" Marcus asked. The manager, a 4-armed Greshik, shrugged all 4 shoulders. 16 different people have owned this ship in the last 50 years. None kept it longer than a month. They all said it felt wrong. Wrong how? They didn't say. They just returned it and walked away. The manager left quickly, as if he was happy to be rid of the ship. Marcus stood alone in the bay. He looked at his new ship and took a deep breath. "Well, I spent 500 credits. Might as well see what I bought." He pressed the access code into the hull panel. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the ship was different than Marcus expected. The corridors were wider than they should be for a ship this size. The walls were smooth and dark, with lines of soft blue light running through them like veins. Marcus walked slowly, his footsteps echoing. The air smelled fresh, which was strange for a ship that had been closed for years. Usually, old ships smelled like oil and rust. He found the bridge first. The controls were strange, with symbols he didn't recognize, but when he touched the main panel, it lit up. The displays changed to English. The ship was adapting to him. "Okay, that's weird," Marcus said to himself. He explored further. There was a small cabin, a bathroom, a storage room. Everything was clean and working. This ship was worth far more than 500 credits. Why had so many people returned it? Then he found the cargo bay. Marcus opened the door and stopped breathing. The cargo bay was enormous. It was impossible. The bay was 3 times larger than the entire ship looked from outside. The ceiling stretched high above him, filled with soft golden light. And in the center was a garden, a real garden, with trees and flowers and grass. Water flowed in small streams. Birds, or things that looked like birds, flew between the branches. The air was warm and smelled like flowers and rain. Marcus walked forward slowly, his mind struggling to understand what he was seeing. This was impossible. Gardens didn't grow in space. They needed sunlight and soil and care. In the center of the garden stood something that looked like a large crystal egg. It was taller than Marcus, made of clear blue crystal that glowed from within. Inside the crystal he could see a shape, a person, or something like a person. They were sleeping. Marcus moved closer. His heart was beating fast. The being inside was tall and thin, with pale silver skin and long fingers. Their face was peaceful. "Hello?" Marcus called out. His voice seemed small in the huge space. No answer. He reached out to touch the crystal. The moment his fingers touched the surface, everything changed. The ship's lights blazed bright. The garden seemed to wake up, the flowers turning toward him. A vibration ran through the floor, like a heartbeat starting after a long sleep. And then inside his mind, Marcus heard a voice. It was old, so old that it felt like the voice of mountains or oceans. It was tired, but also hopeful. "Finally," the voice said. "A curious one." Marcus stumbled backward, his hand leaving the crystal. He looked around wildly. "Who said that?" he shouted. "Where are you?" The voice came again, softer now. "I am the ship. She is the curator. And you, human, you are exactly what we have been waiting for." Marcus stared at the sleeping figure in the crystal. The garden around him seemed to pulse with life. He had bought a ship for 500 credits. He was starting to realize he had gotten much more than he paid for. Marcus stood frozen in the garden, staring at the crystal pod. His mind was racing. Ships didn't talk. Gardens didn't grow in cargo bays. And sleeping aliens in crystal eggs definitely didn't appear on ships bought for 500 credits. "Okay," Marcus said slowly, trying to stay calm. "You said you're the ship. Can you explain what's happening?" The voice filled his mind again. It felt warm, like sunlight. "The curator has been sleeping for 10,000 years. She waits for someone worthy to continue her mission." 10,000 years, Marcus whispered. "That's impossible." "Time is different for those who wait," the ship said. "Many have come aboard. Many have left quickly. They felt fear. But you feel curiosity. This is why the curator is waking now." The crystal pod began to glow brighter. The light pulsed like a heartbeat. Marcus wanted to run, but something kept him there. He had to know what was inside. Slowly, the crystal started to crack. Lines appeared on the surface, spreading like spider webs. Then, with a sound like breaking ice, the crystal split open. A warm mist poured out, filling the air with a smell like rain and honey. The figure inside opened her eyes. They were silver, like mirrors. She looked at Marcus, and he felt like she could see everything about him, his thoughts, his memories, his soul. She stepped out of the pod carefully, like someone learning to walk again. She was tall, taller than Marcus by a full head. Her skin was pale silver and seemed to shimmer in the light. She wore robes that looked like they were made of liquid starlight. "Hello," she said. Her voice was real now, not in his mind. It sounded like music. "I am Vale. I am a curator of the archivists. And you are human?" Marcus could only nod. Vale looked confused. "But humans are not supposed to be here yet. Your species, you only discovered faster than light travel 30 years ago. The prediction said it would take you 200 more years to reach this part of the galaxy." "We're good at surprising people," Marcus managed to say. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Vale smiled. It was a kind smile. Yes, I can see that. What is your name, human? Marcus. Marcus Chen. Marcus Chen, Vale repeated, as if tasting the words. You own this ship now? I bought it at an auction for 500 credits, Vale laughed. The sound was beautiful and sad at the same time. 500 credits? The whisper of distances was once worth more than entire planets, but I suppose when you are forgotten long enough, you become worthless to most. She walked past Marcus, touching the trees and flowers gently. But not to you. You came inside. Others ran away. Why? Marcus thought about it. Because I wanted to know what was inside. I'm a salvage dealer. I look at old things and try to understand their story. Stories, Vale said softly. Yes, that is what we do here. We preserve stories. She turned to face him. Marcus Chen, I must tell you what this ship really is. She gestured around the garden. This is not just a ship. It is an archive vault. My people, the archivists, traveled the galaxy for millions of years. We found civilizations that were dying, species that were disappearing, cultures that would be forgotten forever. And you saved them? Marcus asked. We preserved them, Vale corrected. We collected their art, their music, their knowledge, their memories, everything that made them unique. We stored it all here, in this ship and others like it. She walked to a tree that had silver leaves. When she touched it, the leaves began to sing. It was a song without words, but Marcus could feel emotions in it: joy, sadness, hope, loss. This tree, Vale explained, is the last living thing from the Keltharian people. They died out 8,000 years ago, but their music lives on. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. He didn't know why. That's beautiful. Yes, Vale agreed. And there is more. So much more. Come. She led him through the garden. She showed him things Marcus had never imagined. There was a fountain that didn't flow water but memories. When Marcus looked into it, he saw images of alien families, alien children playing, alien elders teaching lessons. There were sculptures that changed shape based on who was looking at them. There were books written in light. There was music that you could see with your eyes and taste with your tongue. 12 civilizations are preserved here, Vale said. 12 species that no longer exist anywhere else in the universe. Their worlds are gone. Their people are gone. But their souls, their essence, it lives here. Marcus walked through the archive in wonder. Every step revealed something new, something impossible, something precious. Then Vale's expression changed. She looked worried. Marcus, there is a problem. The ship's power core is failing. I can feel it. The whisper of distances is dying. Can't we repair it? Marcus asked. The power core is ancient technology. It needs a specific component, a chromium resonator. They are very rare now, almost impossible to find. Almost impossible isn't the same as impossible, Marcus said. Where can we get one? Vale hesitated. There is only one place in this part of the galaxy that still has them, the Collective's central vaults. The Collective? The big government organization? Yes, but Marcus, you must understand, the Collective does not believe in preserving dead cultures. They think the past should be forgotten. They destroy archives like this one. If they knew what this ship contained, they would take it and erase everything inside. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. They can't do that. These are people's lives, their memories, their art. They can, and they have, Vale said sadly. Many archive vaults have been destroyed. Mine is one of the last, maybe the very last. Marcus looked around the garden. He thought about the singing tree, the memory fountain, the 12 civilizations that existed nowhere else. He thought about stories being erased forever. No, he said firmly. We're going to save this ship. We're going to get that component. How? Vale asked. We cannot steal from the collective. They have too much security. Marcus smiled. It was the kind of smile that meant he had an idea. Maybe a crazy idea, but an idea. We're not going to steal from them, Marcus said. We're going to trade with them, and I know exactly what humans have that no one else in the galaxy has. Vale looked at him with her mirror-silver eyes. What? Our stories, Marcus said. Earth's history. Human music, art, literature. The collective has never seen them before. They'll be fascinating to them, different, valuable. You would trade your own culture's heritage, Vale asked. To save 12 others, Marcus said. Yes. Besides, we're not selling it. We're sharing it. That's what humans do. We tell stories. We want people to remember. For the first time since waking, Vale looked hopeful. You are a strange species, Marcus Chen. The ship chose well. We haven't won yet, Marcus said. First, we need to get to the collective's headquarters, and we need to make them an offer they can't refuse. Behind them, the garden seemed to glow brighter, as if the ship itself was happy. The whisper of distances had been forgotten for years, but now it had a chance to be remembered again. The journey to the collective's headquarters took 3 days. Marcus spent that time preparing his presentation. He gathered everything he could from Earth's cultural database, music files, art images, historical records, and literature. Vale watched him work with curiosity. Tell me about human music, she said one evening as Marcus organized files. Marcus smiled. Music it's how we express feelings when words aren't enough. It's mathematics and emotion combined together. He played her a recording of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Vale's silver eyes went wide. She stood perfectly still as the music filled the ship. When it ended, she was silent for a long moment. That was... She struggled to find words. I felt something. Sadness and joy at the same time. How is that possible? That's what makes it beautiful, Marcus said. Beethoven was deaf when he wrote that. He couldn't hear it, but he felt it in his soul. Vale touched Marcus's shoulder gently. Your species is young, but you understand something very old. You understand that beauty matters, that memory matters. This is why the ship chose you. On the 3rd day, they arrived at Collective Central, a massive space station that looked like a silver city floating in space. Ships from hundreds of worlds came and went like busy insects. Marcus felt nervous. This was the biggest trade he had ever attempted. If he failed, the archive vault would die. 12 civilizations would be forgotten forever. Are you ready? Vale asked. No, Marcus admitted, but let's do it anyway. They docked at the visitors' bay. Marcus wore his best clothes, a simple suit that looked professional but not too fancy. Vale wore her flowing robes. Together they looked like an odd pair, but Marcus hoped that would work in their favor. The collective's reception hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high Marcus couldn't see the top. Hundreds of aliens moved through the space, all carrying data pads and looking busy. A receptionist with blue skin and 3 heads looked at them. Purpose of visit? All 3 mouths said at once. We have a trade proposal, Marcus said. We need to speak with someone in the resource acquisition department. The receptionist typed something. You have an appointment? No, but no appointment, no meeting. Next. Marcus didn't move. He had expected this. Tell your supervisor that a human has arrived with a complete cultural database from Earth. Tell them we're offering exclusive access. First contact protocol gives us special consideration. The receptionist's 3 heads looked at each other. Then one head spoke into a communicator. 5 minutes later, Marcus and Vale were being escorted to an office on the 47th level. The office belonged to Administrator Kroll, a large being that looked like an upright turtle with too many arms. He gestured for them to sit. A human, Kroll said, examining Marcus like he was an interesting insect. We don't see many of your kind here. Your species is very new to galactic society. What could you possibly have to trade? Marcus placed a data chip on the desk. Our history, our culture, music, art, literature, scientific discoveries, everything that makes humanity unique. Your database has almost nothing about Earth. We're offering to change that. In exchange for? Kroll asked, one eyebrow rising. A chromium resonator. You have hundreds in your vaults. We only need one. Kroll laughed. It sounded like rocks falling. Those components are valuable, worth far more than some cultural files. Are they? Marcus asked. You have hundreds. They're sitting in storage, unused. Our cultural database is unique. It can't be found anywhere else. You'd be the first in the collective to have complete access to human civilization. Kroll leaned back in his chair. Show me. Prove this data is worth a chromium resonator. Marcus had prepared for this moment. He pulled out a small speaker and played the same recording he had shown Vale, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. The music filled the office. Kroll's expression changed. His eyes widened. His multiple hands stopped moving. He listened to the entire piece without saying a word. When it ended, Kroll was silent for a long moment. What was that? He finally asked. His voice was different now, softer, confused. That's human music, created by a man who couldn't hear. It's called the Ninth Symphony, and it's about joy and brotherhood and the triumph of the human spirit. I felt... Kroll touched his chest. I felt emotions. Complex emotions. How does sound create feelings? That's what human art does, Marcus said. We don't just record information. We capture the soul of our experiences. Every piece of music, every painting, every book, they all contain pieces of human emotion and thought. Kroll looked at Vale, who had been silent until now. And you, archivist? Why do you travel with this human? Vale spoke carefully. I am the last curator of my people. The ship we arrived in contains archives of extinct civilizations. The power core is failing. Without the chromium resonator, those archives will be lost. Kroll's expression changed. It became harder, colder. You have an archive vault? Those are illegal. The collective banned them 50 years ago. Marcus's heart sank. This was the moment he had feared. Why? He asked. Why ban the preservation of history? Because the past causes problems, Kroll said. Dead civilizations make people ask questions. They make people compare what was to what is. They create nostalgia for times that should be forgotten. The collective believes in moving forward, not looking backward. That's wrong, Marcus said firmly. The past teaches us. It shows us what worked and what didn't. It reminds us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. The rules are clear, Kroll said. Archive vaults must be surrendered to the collective for disposal. Marcus stood up. His hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anger. No. You can't erase entire civilizations just because you're afraid of questions. These people lived, they loved, they created beautiful things. They deserve to be remembered. The law is wrong, Marcus interrupted. And you know it. I saw your face when you heard that music. You felt something. You connected with people who lived hundreds of years before you were born. That's the power of preservation. That's why it matters. Kroll was silent. His many hands drummed on the desk. Marcus could see conflict in his eyes. Finally, Kroll spoke. There may be a way. If the archive vault were to be classified as a cultural heritage site with an official guardian species, it would be legal. Protected even. What do we need to do? Marcus asked quickly. You would need approval from the High Council. They would need to inspect the vault. And they would need to agree that the contents are valuable enough to preserve. Kroll leaned forward. But I must warn you, if they find anything problematic, they will confiscate everything. Marcus looked at Vale. She nodded slightly. We'll take that chance, Marcus said. Kroll picked up his communicator. Then I'll arrange the inspection. They'll arrive at your ship tomorrow morning. I suggest you prepare very carefully. As Marcus and Vale left the office, Vale whispered, Marcus, there is something you should know. The archives contain evidence of things the collective wants to hide, dark things from their past. Marcus's stomach dropped. What kind of things? Evidence that the collective's founders didn't just allow civilizations to die. They helped destroy them, actively erase them from history. If the inspectors find that, they will destroy everything, Vale finished. And probably arrest us both. Marcus took a deep breath. They had one night to prepare for an inspection that could save or destroy everything. The stakes had just gotten much, much higher. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He and Vale spent hours in the archive, planning how to show the inspectors only the safe parts. The garden was safe. The music and art were safe. But deep in the vault, hidden in the memory crystals, was evidence that could destroy them. Can we hide those sections? Marcus asked. The ship's AI controls access, Vale said, but inspectors have override codes. If they look hard enough, they will find everything. Then we don't give them time to look hard, Marcus said. We show them so much beauty that they forget to search for secrets. Vale smiled sadly. You are optimistic for someone facing prison. It's a human trait, Marcus said. We hope even when it's foolish. The inspectors arrived exactly on time. There were 5 of them, led by Inspector Krill, a different person from Administrator Kroll. This Krill was thin and gray, with eyes like black glass. He carried a data pad and looked at everything with suspicion. This is the archive vault, Krill said, not as a question, but as an accusation. I've read about these ships. Relics from a dead civilization that refused to accept progress. The archivists preserved beauty, Vale said calmly. They saved what would have been lost forever. Or, Krill countered, they hoarded outdated information that serves no purpose. He turned to his team. Begin the inspection. Catalog everything. If you find anything that violates preservation laws, report immediately. The team spread out. Marcus watched them nervously. 4 of them looked like typical bureaucrats, bored, efficient, just doing their job. But one was different. She was young, with 6 limbs and bright green skin. Her name tag said Junior Archivist Tess. While the others checked their scanners and took notes, Tess actually looked at things. She touched the singing tree gently. She watched the memory fountain with wide eyes. This is incredible, Tess whispered to herself. Marcus saw his opportunity. He walked over to her. Would you like to experience one of the memory crystals? Tess looked scared. I'm not supposed to interact with the exhibits. Just document them. The documentation won't tell you what these civilizations were really like, Marcus said. You need to feel it, to understand it. Tess glanced at Inspector Krill, who was busy examining equipment on the other side of the garden. Just for a moment, she said. Marcus led her to a small crystal that glowed with warm orange light. This one is from the Velthani people. They lived on a desert world. They're gone now, but their joy, their love of life, it's all here. Tess touched the crystal. Her eyes went distant. Marcus knew she was experiencing the memories directly, feeling what the Velthani had felt, seeing their world, hearing their laughter. When she pulled her hand away, tears ran down her face. They were so happy, she said quietly. Even in the desert with so little water, they were so happy. They danced, they sang, they loved each other. And now they're gone, Marcus said. Everywhere except here. Tess looked at him with new understanding. This isn't just data storage. This is remembering. Real remembering. Yes, Marcus said. Across the garden, Inspector Krill's voice rang out. I found something. Restricted files in the deep archives. Marcus's blood went cold. This was what he had feared. The team gathered around Krill. He was looking at his scanner with an expression of anger and fear. There are sealed records here, Krill said. Historical files marked classified. They contain information about— He stopped himself. About events that are not for public record. What kind of events? Tess asked. The kind we don't discuss, Krill snapped. The kind that are sealed for good reason. What if the reason isn't good? Marcus said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. What if those files are sealed because they're true, not because they're false? You know nothing about this, human, Krill said. Then tell me, Marcus challenged. Tell all of us. What's in those files that scares you so much? Krill's face went rigid. These archives contain evidence of decisions made long ago. Decisions that were necessary for the greater good. Civilizations that were deemed incompatible with galactic progress. You mean civilizations that were destroyed on purpose, Vale said softly. By the collective's founders. The other inspectors looked shocked. Even Tess stepped back. That's a lie, one inspector said. It's not, Vale replied. The archivists recorded everything. 3 of the 12 civilizations in this vault weren't killed by natural disasters or disease. They were systematically erased because they questioned authority, because they were different. Krill's hands were shaking. Those records are classified for a reason. They would cause chaos. They would make people question the collective's authority. Maybe they should, Marcus said. Maybe people deserve to know their real history. You're advocating for rebellion, Krill accused. I'm advocating for truth, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. The garden was silent. The other inspectors looked confused, scared, uncertain. They had come to do a simple job, and now they were facing questions about their entire government's foundation. Then Tess spoke. Her voice was quiet but firm. I want to see the records. Absolutely not, Krill said. With respect, Inspector, I have clearance to review all archived materials as part of my duties. Tess walked toward the deep archive access panel. If there's evidence of wrongdoing, we have a responsibility to document it. I order you to stop, Krill said. Tess paused. She looked at Krill, then at Marcus, then at the singing tree that still hummed softly in the background. No, she said. I won't stop. She accessed the sealed files. Holographic displays lit up around them, showing images and documents from thousands of years ago. Battle reports, execution orders, entire planets sterilized, all signed by the founders of the collective. The other inspectors stared in horror. This can't be real, one whispered. It's real, Vale said. My people witnessed it. We recorded it because we knew someday people would need to see the truth. Krill's face had gone pale. If this gets out, everything will change. People will lose faith in the collective. There will be chaos. Or, Marcus said carefully, there will be justice and healing and a chance to be better than your ancestors were. You don't understand, Krill said. I can't let this information spread. I have a duty. Your duty is to truth, Tess interrupted, not to protecting comfortable lies. She turned to face Krill directly. Inspector, I'm filing an official report. This archive contains historical evidence of significant value. It should be preserved and studied, not destroyed. I could have you fired for this, Krill said. Then fire me, Tess replied, but the truth will still be true. The other inspectors were talking among themselves, looking at the evidence, arguing in low voices. Marcus could see the conflict in their faces, belief in their government versus belief in what they were seeing. Finally, one of the older inspectors spoke. His name was Torvin, and he had been silent until now. Inspector Krill, perhaps there is a middle path. What path? Krill asked tiredly. We classify these records as historical evidence, restricted access, but not destroyed. We recognize this vault as a cultural heritage site. We assign humanity as its guardian species, since they have no political connection to the collective's past. That's what we proposed, Marcus said, hope rising in his chest. Yes, Torvin agreed, but with one addition. The restricted records remain sealed except for approved scholarly research. The truth is preserved, but not weaponized. People can learn from history without it becoming a tool for chaos. Krill looked at the faces around him. His team was divided, uncertain, but clearly unwilling to destroy the archives. If I agree to this, Krill said slowly, my career is over. They'll demote me for not following protocol. Then you'll have made a sacrifice for something important, Marcus said. That's honorable. Krill was silent for a long moment. Then he pulled out his data pad and began typing. I'm filing the report, he said. The archive vault is hereby classified as a cultural heritage site, guardian species, humanity, restricted materials to be preserved under academic seal. Tess smiled. The other inspectors looked relieved. Marcus felt like he could breathe again. They had done it. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood in the cargo bay and watched engineers install the chromium resonator. The component glowed with blue light as it connected to the ship's ancient power core. Initializing, one engineer said. Power levels rising. 20%, 40%, 60%. The whisper of distances hummed. Marcus felt it through his feet, a vibration like a heartbeat that had been sleeping for too long. 80%, 95%, 100%, the engineer announced. Core is stable. The ship is fully operational. The garden suddenly exploded with life. Flowers bloomed in seconds. The trees grew taller and fuller. New streams of water appeared, flowing from nowhere. The air became warmer and smelled like rain and honey and growing things. The singing tree began its song, louder and clearer than ever before. Marcus heard Vale gasp behind him. She walked into the garden with tears streaming down her silver face. I never thought I would see this again. The vault at full power, the way it was meant to be. The ship's AI spoke in Marcus's mind, and this time its voice was strong and clear. Thank you, Marcus Chen. You have given us life again. You have given memory a future. We all did it together, Marcus said, looking at the people gathered in the cargo bay. Tess was there. She had resigned from the collective 3 days after the inspection. I can't work for an organization that hides truth, she had told Marcus, but I can work for one that preserves it. Torvin was there too. The older inspector had taken early retirement. I've spent 40 years cataloging things, he had said. I'd like to spend my remaining years protecting things that matter. Even Administrator Kroll had come to see the ship's restoration. He stood in the garden with his multiple arms crossed, but Marcus could see something soft in his expression. So, Kroll said, what will you do now, human? You have a priceless archive and the galaxy's permission to keep it. You could sell access to scholars, become very wealthy. Marcus shook his head. That's not why I did this. These memories don't belong to me. They belong to everyone. Then what's your plan? Kroll asked. Marcus looked at Vale, who nodded encouragingly. We're going to travel. We'll visit worlds on the edges of galactic society, places where people don't have access to universities or great libraries. We'll share the archives with anyone who wants to learn. A traveling museum, Tess said, her eyes lighting up. We could go to colony worlds, refugee stations, frontier outposts, places that never get to see this kind of history. Exactly, Marcus said. And along the way, we'll collect new stories, document cultures that are alive right now. The archivists preserved the past. We can preserve the present. Vale touched Marcus's shoulder gently. The archivists would have approved. They believed memory was for sharing, not hoarding. Kroll made a sound that might have been approval. You'll need funding. Ships don't run on idealism. The collective will provide a grant, a new voice said. Everyone turned. Inspector Krill stood at the entrance to the cargo bay. He looked different, older somehow, but also more peaceful. I was demoted. As expected, Krill said. But before I left my position, I filed one final report. I recommended that the collective establish a preservation grant program. They approved it. You'll receive enough funding to operate for 5 years. Marcus was stunned. You did that for us? I did it for them, Krill said, gesturing to the garden. The Velthani, the Keltharians, the 10 other civilizations in this vault. They deserve better than to be forgotten. This is my way of apologizing for almost destroying them. Thank you, Marcus said quietly. Krill nodded and left, but Marcus could see something new in the inspector's posture, not defeat but relief, like a weight had been lifted. Over the next few days, they prepared for their first journey. Marcus created a crew manifest. Vale would be the head curator. Tess would handle documentation and research. Torvin would manage logistics, and Marcus would be the ship's captain and human liaison. It's a strange crew, Torvin observed. A human, an ancient archivist, a former bureaucrat, and a young idealist. The best crews usually are, Marcus said with a smile. Their first destination was a refugee colony called Haven's Edge. It was home to people displaced by wars and disasters, beings who had lost their homeworlds and their cultures. When they arrived, hundreds of refugees came to see the whisper of distances. Marcus opened the cargo bay and let them walk through the garden. He watched an old Vrixian woman touch the memory fountain and weep. He saw Keldan children laugh at the singing tree. He heard a Morthian scholar discuss philosophy with Vale for hours. One young refugee, a boy whose species Marcus didn't recognize, approached him shyly. Mr. Captain, can I ask you something? Of course, Marcus said, kneeling down to the boy's level. My people, we don't have a homeworld anymore. It was destroyed. Does that mean we'll be forgotten too? Marcus felt his heart break a little. No, never. That's why we're here. We're going to help people remember. And maybe someday we'll document your people's story too. So future generations know you existed, know you mattered. The boy's eyes went wide. Really? Really, Marcus promised. As the days turned into weeks, the whisper of distances visited more worlds. Each stop brought new people, new stories, new connections. The archives weren't just about the past anymore. They were about the present, about making sure that nothing beautiful would ever truly die. One evening, Marcus stood in the garden alone. The stars were visible through the transparent ceiling. The singing tree hummed its ancient melody. Vale found him there. You're thinking, she observed. I'm thinking about how strange life is, Marcus said. A few months ago, I was broke and desperate. I walked into an empty auction house and bought a ship for 500 credits. I thought I was just buying salvage. And instead, you bought purpose, Vale said. Yeah, Marcus agreed. I guess I did. The ship knew, Vale said. It waited for someone who would see value in what others considered worthless. It waited for someone with curiosity and courage and kindness. It waited for a human. We're not that special, Marcus said. You are, Vale insisted. Your species is young, but you understand something ancient. You understand that being remembered is what makes life meaningful. You carve names in stone and write books and paint pictures because you know that to be forgotten is a kind of death. Marcus looked at the garden around him. 12 civilizations living on in beauty and memory. We won't let them be forgotten, any of them. No, Vale agreed. We won't. The ship hummed beneath them, content and alive. The garden glowed with golden light, And somewhere in the archives, the memories of countless beings waited to be shared, to be learned from, to be cherished. Marcus Chen had bought a forgotten ship for 500 credits, but what he had really purchased was something far more valuable: the chance to ensure that in the vast, cold darkness of space, no story would ever truly end. No voice would ever be silenced. No beauty would ever be lost. In the end, that was the most human thing of all: to remember, to preserve, to care. And in a galaxy that often forgot what mattered, that made all the difference.